early August 2023 with the Lovelocks in Sunninghill. Rough cut photo trail. And it will be a rough cut. I'll start with the standard introduction. Here we come to where we live, 22 Armitage Court in Sunninghill. Warning signs about cats, armed mice. This is Robin's Corner, where GPS was tested from the late 1980s. Lovely bit of garden sculpture from June, from a birthday present, one of my favourite ones. Down there, front drive. Oh yes, one of the special plates. The website has got lots of things on it. It was business decades ago, but not now. Various little projects. Bicycle, might get that working soon. And warning signs about cats. That was a project some months ago, which is hill. Did I say hill forts? No. Forts for pussycats and armed mice. That light should show that our cat Tody's in there, probably sleeping on duty. How are you, Tody? Okay? Yes. A lot of this has been seen before by others, but it's to cover the bases, particularly health and safety. Oh dear, Tody's decided to follow me around. He does tend to prowl around after visitors, don't you? Ready? Yes, health and safety is an important thing, but I better point that out. Anybody who comes to our place will recognise lots of warning signs about hidden cameras. Most of them aren't hidden. Of course, they may all be working. And one quite important sign is that one, and you need to read the small print about water squirters. There we are. I've done the health and safety. Robot boat. We haven't had a chance to do anything much on that for months and months. I'm hoping I can get it ready this year for another attempt. But there's just not enough hours in the day. That's the camper that was used to take the boat down to the sea for last year's Trans-Atlatic attempt. There's the battle damage. June said Robin did it. Robin said the wall did it, but the wall is okay. There, I think I've done the important things. Tody will probably continue to relax as he usually does. So now into the house. Now, these photo trails perform several functions. They're partly an aid to my memory, made more useful because they're shared openly with everybody. But also, there'll be a plug for a couple of topics at the end. Global warming, and words of James Lovelock, and the DVLA. Because I'm still not permitted to drive. Anyhow, that's a glance of our lounge, and yes, look on Google Maps, they've got us at the right place there. But one function of this is to get an idea of how much work needs, before I go out in the garden, we'll have a quick look. A lot of work needs to be done in the house, and it's got like that. We haven't got the house. So this is where Samantha works from home, so we've got to be very quiet here. And this was our games room, but it's now absolutely full of junk. Some of it is tools that are being used for work on the house. Yes, there's some hobby stuff here, but we haven't had a chance to tidy it up. So this is partly so that people can case the joints. I don't think you'd have to be a complete idiot to think you can steal anything here. Here's June working.
Don't go in there.
Hey, I can't go in there.
No,
Why not? Because Samantha's working.
she's on her call.
Yeah, I know. I've just gone through there. Oh dear. Shall I go in there again? Yeah. So this is the kitchen, which is in such a bad state now as it had been for several years. But most of the work is clearing stuff out. Yes, the lounge is, believe it or not, that's been used as a bit of a workshop area, solder on the ground. There you see, very out front, nothing hidden. Now, of course, there's lots of work to be done in the garden, and the work is in the category of handyman work. Yes, there's the obvious getting on top of the overgrown garden, but that's relatively easy compared with more difficult stuff. Yes, telescopes. Built that when I was a kid. So this is the easy work, and we have made preparation in terms of where to put things. People often tell me where to put things. So yeah, help from people like Paul in the last few years enabled us to put things, not put things, but get things ready to put places. Yeah, tool shed is an obvious thing, but if you've got people coming around to do work, whoever they are, it's useful for them to be able to find the tools they need. So I created space out in the open, and of course we're about to go into an important place. All of these places need to be tidied, and yes, some stuff has to be thrown, but before you throw stuff you make sure you know what to keep. So this is my laboratory, and stuff being used for things like the robot boat, but it's all in the category, although we've got drawers to put things, time needs to be spent putting things in the right place and labelling the drawers. Here's another couple of projects, a couple of doors, in order to provide even more space for putting things, and a workshop including a vice. Getting a few cobwebs and things in it now. Right. I didn't expect to do this long tour, but at least it's up to date, as I say, early August 2023. So guys that are in contact who say, oh yes, we can do handyman work, it's useful knowing what the work is and who you're doing it for. So let's go into that long photo trail, and I warn you, it is a long photo trail. Tuesday the 1st of August 2023, starting with a few photos to give a flavour of content. So for example, a trip to a garden open for the NGS charity, checking trackers, visiting friends, and the Comrades Club at the end of the day. So now into the photo trail. As I say, about 6.5 minutes. So starting off, looks as though that was in the middle of the day. Robin having his lunch, and cat Bentley from opposite, our cat Tody guarding the premises. And what am I working on? Oh, checking email. And yeah, Wembury, the place that was open for the National Garden Scheme charity, and the owner, Caroline, very interesting connections with Sunninghill. And then I was checking out one of the trackers. Hello Tody. Hello Bentley. Bentley helps guard the premises and train Tody in exchange for breakfast and a few other things. Looks as though we're off through the village, getting close to the place, see the signs, so we park the car not far away and go in, and lots of things to see. Lovely garden, lots of, a real plantaholics garden, I think is how she described herself. obviously got a background. Oh, that was a lovely bit of sculpture, just like the real plant. Other bits of garden sculpture. That caught my eye. That bug palace apparently come all the way from New Zealand, driftwood. I wouldn't recognise most of these plants, although June probably would. Bumblebees, blue bottles. Time for a little snack and coffee. Phone call with my Auntie Joy. Interesting technique to keep the heron away from the pond. Checking out the tracker where we were, and looks as though we're leaving now. Coming back through the village, back home at 22 Armitage Court. Oh, that's the spot tracker, one of the trackers that where we are, public, and that's the Go Top SOS tracker. So I'm just checking those positions, and it shows where we've been, and that showed nicely the actual walk around the garden. That worked well. And now that's the Spot Satcoms tracker, the same one that's going into Snoopy's robot boat. That showed where we parked the car. Oh yes, Tuesday, so the COVID page gets updated with the latest graph. It looks as though I'm using the opportunity here to take a few photos of the garden, and Cat Lady, Michelle's cat, staying with us for a week or so, relaxing in the garden. So there have been other tours, but the main thing is everything has grown like mad, and I need help not only in the garden but much more help in the house, getting things put away in the right places, like the summer house or the laboratory, as you get a glimpse of there. Yes, bumblebees. But there are other tours that give you more detail. This is just a glance of some of the items in the garden. The main thing is all the plants have grown nicely. Perhaps grown a bit too much. Yes, very overgrown. Yes, that was a nice little bit of work. The mirrors around the chimney to reflect the heat and the light. A little while since we've tried that. Little doze? I don't think so. So, where are we off to? Ah, I know, we're walking down to the village to visit our friends the Bansells and spend time with their lovely doggy Romeo. He's alright, but he must insist on licking. And Raj. And in fact, I owed Raj a meal. He insisted on paying for the last meal we went out for, and we were going to go to La Sorrentina, but it's closed for a couple of weeks as they go on holiday. So we went to next door, which is the lovely Turkish flame kebab. Yep, I had my usual cheeseburger, and then we went into the Sunninghill Comrades Club, and Raj had to go back and walk the doggy, and I spent some time there before making my way home. June watching some rubbish row on telly, along with the Pussycats. And oh yes, I checked out the scatter on the pendant trackers, and there was a fix made for that a day or two later. That's it. Wednesday the 2nd of August 2023. There's several pictures to give you a flavour of what follows in about 3 minutes of photos. Messing around with reducing scatter on the GPS from a tracker, pub lunch, doing a bit of work on soldering up some extra boards, and the Comrades Club, and an interesting conversation with email. So let's go into those photo trail now. There we go. That's the problem I had of the positions from the tracker were a bit scattered. That was sorted eventually. Yeah, it looks as though we're going to get rain, but we didn't get as much as we thought. That is the planned trip down to the Cricketers Beefeater for pub lunch, and use the trip as always to check the trackers. There we are, arriving there. Several photos taken inside of the grumpy old men enjoying their food and conversation. And then when we get back, yeah, there's the scatter, and then coffee, my place. And what do I do next? Have a bit of a doze, it seems, and then wake up. Oh, it was the fishmonger. And a bit of soldering. Yes, been working on those boards. Should have started it months ago, just haven't had the chance. Easy to make mistakes. I've got one reference board, but I'm making 3 others. And how are we doing now? Oh yes, Tody decides to help with everything. And what we got here? Yeah, it's getting late in the day, I suppose. Oh, Bella's arrived from the village with her new car. And so Tody says, oh, I've got a new car. Perhaps I should check it out. So he climbed up onto it. Not encouraged by Robin, of course. So I carry on with a bit more work on those computer boards for the autopilot for Snoopy's robot boat. Should have done that, or started on it months ago. Oh yeah, burnt my finger on that. It was getting a bit hot, so something was wrong. It's getting late in the day now. So June and the cats are watching the telly, and there's the hedgehog after the peanuts. Looks like Robin's taken a walk down to the Comrades Club. Yep, forced myself to have a glass of wine this time, and then back and checking the tracker, but this time the tracker was definitely doing better. Then interesting email conversation, gives you a clue what it might have been about. Interesting guys. And yeah, there's just not enough hours in the day, and that's the end of that photo trail. Thursday the 3rd of August 2023, and lots of different things all happening at the same time, including Robin working on his autopilot computer and visit to the National Garden Scheme garden that was open, which is a large proportion of this photo trail. But there are lots of other things on the go, including working on the autopilot computer, and trip to, at the end of the day, to the Comrades Club and checking out the trackers. So now I think we're into the photo trail, starting with Michelle's cat Lady, and the having problems trying to work out what did I do wrong, something stupid, getting advice on the pickaxe forum. And that's what I noticed. One mistake, I'd forgotten to make breaks in the tracks using a little drill. Luckily I had the reference computer number 1, and I could see that I hadn't noticed that. So this looks as though this is the garden which we're planning to visit. Not far along to get to it. 6 Beverley Gardens. And I used the opportunity to check out the tracker, the so-called Go Top tracker, black one, and there was a white one in my pocket as well, because one of the problems to get out of that was the scatter we were getting on position. So bye bye to the pussycats guarding the property. Yes, typical roadworks, so we had to take a diversion. And now we're getting to the spot and park the car a few yards down the road and into the garden. So lots of photographs here. Absolutely lovely, interesting one it was. Next door they had a lovely dovecot as well. And pussycats, lots of pussycats. And yes, lots of little objects. I didn't get a chance. Yeah, that's Jonathan, I think, if I got the name right. The chickens. Hello, chicken. Oh, apples to scrump. What else have we got? Yeah, lots of plants. And lots of pussycats with little dens for them to hang out in. Ah, that I think was a... could have been a plum. I'm not sure what it was. Or an edible cherry. I don't know. I'm no expert. More pussycats. Nice old lovely bits of wood. And that's the original old wood apparently. So, nice long garden. Yeah, sunflowers. Not managed to get sunflowers to come up in ours for years. Oh yes, large marrow I think that is. Absolutely lovely vegetable garden. The whole garden was nice, but that's what struck me. So yes, that could be a banana tree, but I'm not absolutely sure. Another pussycat, lots of different pussycats there. Lovely bit of sculpture tucked away. Ah, time for a break. Coffee and cake. And that looks as though we're checking, they're public anyhow, those GoTop trackers. In fact, all the trackers are, all the important ones. And so we're just checking where they were. That seemed to be right. Ah, checking out the grapes. Lovely old bumblebees on the flowers. June taking some photographs as well. And that looks as though we're probably leaving there, but just outside I saw some wild fennel. Important ingredient for pasta con salad. And now we're on our way back into Sunninghill, past the, or rather taking a different diversion through South Africa, Ascot that was, back home to Pussycat Tody, guarding the premises of course. Hello Tody. And Michelle's cat Lady. And now looking at the data from the trackers, because we've made some changes from advice from Alan at GoTop in Shenzhen to reduce the scatter, and that seems to be better. So that one's good. And now I check the other one, which is in my pocket, so you wouldn't expect the signal to be quite as good. Same thing, that was the route, and it wasn't too bad considering where it was. Now I'm looking at the Spot Satcoms tracker, which is the one that's going into Snoopy's robot boat. Anybody could check where that is and where it's been off the Snoopy page, and that's not too bad either. Now back to fiddling around soldering those boards. Oh, drilling out the mistake I'd made, as I hadn't cut the tracks in some important places. Luckily the reference board number 1 had that information on it. I just had to look more closely. So now I'm trying to load the software, or at least get the necessary pickaxe editor software to communicate, and having problems there. And that's where I'd be getting some advice off the pickaxe forum. Yeah, so what's next? Well, it looks like it's getting later in the day, and yes, I'm using myself looking at the foxes and the hedgehogs coming at the same time for the peanuts. Yep. And yes, cat lady prowling around. Well, June watches the telly, and I'm probably off to down to the village, I expect. Well, we're looking at Tody in his cat fort, and yeah, looks like I'm off down to the village to the Comrades Club. Have a glass of wine on this occasion. Force myself, somebody has to do it. There's their closed circuit TV. So now back home, I guess. Yeah, there's cat lady. Look at the tracker. Yeah, that shows today's visit, and much better track showing me going into and spending time in the Comrades Club without loads of scatter around it. Now I'm looking at the white tracker, and again that was better, still not perfect, but that's probably because it was in my pocket. There's lady, and that I think is the end of the trial. Friday the 4th of August 2023. This 5-minute photo trail is mostly Robin messing around trying to get the computer working, and he did have a little ride on the bicycle, and it was a nice visit to Ascot Metal Recycling, and of course he was checking out the trackers all the time, and finished the day down at the Comrades Club. So into that photo trail, starting with Tody relaxing in his fort, Robin checking out the trips and the trackers, and of course these are personal trackers that are worn, and yes, that all seems to be working okay. There's lady, and yes, trying to get that software working that loads the updates to the software into the autopilot, and looks like I've got a short on the board. I have to get out and clear a blob of solder. Not always obvious why it doesn't work. So June's out there doing a little bit of gardening work, and Tody's in his cat fort, sleeping most of the time. And he decides to get out and watch what was going on. I decided to check out the bicycle, because there's not much work needed on it, just the gears need to be fixed really. There's a lady relaxing, found a nice spot in the lounge. That was the trip to the, and see my old car still there, with the original note I'd left for them. But really interesting place, that Ascot Metal Recycling, Wells Lane on the edge of Ascot. And yeah, back home, checking out the trackers, including my walk around Ascot Metal Recycling, and that looks as though we fixed the problem of the scatter thanks to Alan in Shenzhen. And then the other tracker, a bit more scatter on that, but still not bad considering it was in my pocket. Oh yeah, call from Roy Vaughan with some tips about trying to get that autopilot working. Checking out June's tracker. We've had that for some years, so-called pocket cam. And they're off to tennis. And I also checked out the Spot Satcoms tracker, the type that's going in Snoopy's robot boat. Anybody could go it by just tapping or clicking on the right place. And there it shows the car having reached the tennis courts. And that's the other tracker, the personal tracker in June's handbag. Now a bit more work trying to get the software working to load updates into the Pickaxe 28X2 based autopilot. Still haven't sorted that out yet. Looks like that's after dinner. A little bit of work on videos like this, including recording the commentary. and then put out the peanuts for the wildlife like the foxes and the hedgehogs, listening to the Radio 4 news on the tranny radio, and then off to the village. Yes, there he is. Light says he's in his cat fort, and down to the village to go into the Comrades Club, mostly for conversation, but of course I forced myself to have a glass of wine or whatever. There was a football match on, and yes, and then walk back. Watching June watch the telly with the cats, choosing funny places to play with wires and things. Lady taking it easy, checking out the tracker, including my walk to the Comrades Club, and that had worked fine. So that was the black go-top tracker. Then the other one, which is a bit more scatter, because you'd expect it to have been in my pocket, but that was basically working okay as well. And anybody can look at where the trackers are just by the contact page. So that's working fine. And that's the end of that photo trail. Saturday the 5th of August 2023. Complete mixture of subjects in this, like Robin trying to get his the software loaded into the pickaxe computers, the spare copies that he's got for the robot boat, and a load of rain that day. But the good thing is there were gaps in it, and we decided to go down to the house open for the National Garden Scheme charity. So these first few pictures at the front of the photo trail give you a flavour of what happened on that day. And there's the track of me walking around the garden, and there's a video chat in the evening. There's the fox on the closed circuit TV, and Tody looking out the window. So now into the photo trail. Yes, these are the spare computers that I'd built, perhaps wrongly. I've made several mistakes, which I've corrected some, hopefully all. And the stage we're at now is trying to load the software using the supplied pickaxe editor into the computers. And I did manage to do that for one of them, so at least that showed that some of the stuff was working. But it's all most certainly down to mistakes by Robin, knowing what to do and doing it properly. So there's the reference computer and 3 other spares that I built, and getting useful help on the pickaxe forum, not assisted by Lady. And there's the rain radar showing heavy rain showers. Yeah, still working on that. Yeah, took a path out that didn't help me very much. There's Lady relaxing. So there's where we're going, to Church House, 3/4 of an hour run, out into the showers of rain. The good thing is that the rain stopped for the period we were walking around the garden. So then I run down the motorway, delayed somewhat. It turned out there was a horse box, and they were probably having to transfer horses from one box to another. Anyhow, past a few pubs and landmarks, you can start to see the signs for the NGS, National Garden Scheme charity. Following the signs, getting to the house, and even though we had the umbrella, in fact the rain held off while we had a nice walk around the garden. So Robin did his usual thing of taking photographs of what looked like interesting objects and plants without necessarily knowing what they were. So yeah, nice view of the house across the garden. Oh, a ladybird. lots of nice places to sit, obviously when the weather is right for it. Yeah, following the trail of the garden. Lots of lovely plants. And an apple. Very tempting to scrump it, but I didn't. Oh yes, that looked like wild fennel, but I don't think it was. That's where we had a relax and a coffee and a cake and a chat, and then we set off back home. June driving, of course, because Robin still hasn't got his driving licence from the DVLA. And yeah, seen a few signs so we know we're getting near home. Turn off by the Windmill pub, over the border, past the Beresteed Hotel, into Armitage Court. And yeah, back home. And then of course I do my usual thing of showing the route by which you can check things like the Spot Satcom's tracker, the same one that's going into Snoopy's robot boat when it's eventually fixed. All the various work on it. Then the other tracker is the pendant tracker. There's two of those. One is the black one, and that shows the route down. And of course this is a tracker that is just kept on the front, and so you can see my walk around the garden. And then the other tracker, which is normally in my pocket and therefore doesn't get such a good signal, the white one, same sort of thing, seems to be in the right position. It's got the tracker where it went, so if anybody went to the contact page, tapped on the right object, they would see where I was. Oh yes, a topic that came up, which is the cost of long-term care, which of course under the law is free, if anything's free. There's Tody looking out the window. Looks like June's rustled up some dinner, so of course I'll do my usual thing and carry it through to the lounge, where I can look at other things like the closed circuit TV and Lady relaxing. Oh, then there's the WhatsApp video chat, and I managed to go to sleep through part of that. And there's the fox on the closed circuit TV. Watching some tennis. I see a fox into the back garden as well. The back bridge. Yeah, video chat still going. And there's with the hedgehog at the same time. So that's the end of the photo trail. The 6th of August 2023. No new photos were taken on that day, which was the usual mix of pussycats like Tody and Lady, Michelle's cat, and watching the foxes on closed circuit TV at the back end of the day. What was new is, as a result of chatting with John Lovelock in Hedgeley, I managed to find an old film that we'd shot in 2004, Hedgeley from the Air, and I couldn't find it anywhere after looking probably years ago on VHS, which John said he had a copy, but I managed to find it on my hard disk. So I uploaded it to YouTube, brought back lots of lovely memories from 2004, when the first video camera that we used, a wireless one, was sent by a business partner in Germany, I think it was, long before the cameras started to appear in the shops, and certainly long before decent drones and that became available. But that was out 2004, before YouTube was launched. That's the end of that. Monday the 7th of August 2023. First few pictures to give you a flavour of the content. Yes, a load of nitty gritty of Robin working on the replacement of the autopilot computer, but also a lovely trip down to a garden open for the National Garden Scheme charity, and of course an opportunity to check the trackers. And the place we went to was Selborne. Lovely people we met, and doggies, and so that gives you a flavour of a trip. And we must be into the photo trail soon. Oh no, the back end of the day was the foxes coming for the peanuts. Lady, Michelle's pussycat, Robin's trip down to the Comrades Club for a glass of wine, and also checked the tracker worked down and back. So now into the photo trail. Yes, the Pickaxe 28X2. Loads of mistakes Robin had made making the extra spare boards, and it's a good job he's taken that approach, because we only had one that we managed to find which was working, and so we had to be able to load the software into it. So obviously having problems with that, but many of the problems were simply down to Robin having made mistakes, like shorts, blobs of solder across tracks, or lots of silly mistakes. Yeah, it looks like there's a short circuit on that board. So some time was spent on that, and work still outstanding. So there's Lady, Michelle's pussycat, and now where we're going, which is Selborne, down in Hampshire, not far from the Three Horseshoes pub. So that's the route down, and so is that correct, he says? Well, it might be, but yeah, so we're off now, and looks like we're checking out Tody. Yes, relaxing, sleeping on duty, although his main duty is at night, does the night shift. That is one of the trackers. There's another tracker being checked, and the Spot Satcoms tracker. Looks like we're swinging into the village station, so June did a bit of shopping and Robin used it to check the tracker. Yeah, that looks good. That's the personal tracker that Robin wears. And so now on our route past RAF Odium, and that must be getting close now. I think that was the pub I remember was nearby. Yes, that's the entrance. There's the field where we parked the car. That looked an interesting car, a Morgan. We spoke to the people. I brought back memories of my workmate. And yeah, so we're now going around the garden, and Robin doing his usual thing of photographing things that look good. Oh, they look tasty. It could be anything. Furniture. Bug Palace. Yes, that was the lovely Bug Palace that was written up in a local newspaper, I think. The Lake Brian. And yeah, lots of other natural bug palaces as well. Lots of lovely garden, well, I'm not sure you call it, sculpture. Apples, yes, just right for scrumping. Lovely walks around the garden, lots of flowers, which of course Robin won't recognise most. And lovely doggy, hello. Yeah, the bees love the blossoms. Looks like June's recognised that's the name of that flower, apparently. Low bumblebee. More flowers. And still working our way around the garden. Lovely bits of sculpture. And looks like into the, oh yes, right at the edge of a lovely field. Lovely situation to the property there. There's the greenhouse. Grapes. June had noticed the grapes. Follow the sign for teas. Time for a tea and coffee soon. Yes, lovely cutlery as well. Here's the map showing the garden. So we've still got things to explore. It looks like the hostas, slugs have had a go at those by the look of it. Something has. Hello hedgehogs, we've got plenty of those at home. Oh, Mr. Badger. Sundial. And yes, making their way out. And yes, I've enjoyed that time chatting to the guys who had the organ. So on our way back home, by the look of it, past RAF Odium. Ah yes, visiting our friends. Yeah, thinking about nicking their apples, but perhaps not. Yeah, the trackers said we're at the right place. And yes, lovely stuff in their garden as well. All part of the farm. So, back to the car, back home, through Hartley Whitney, past Blackbush Airport and the Ely pub restaurant. Oh yes, I recall coming at speed down there, allegedly over 100 miles an hour in a Spitfire Mark III. It's going back a bit though. Would that be late 60s, early 70s? Very early 70s if it was. So getting closer to home, past Bagshot Park and the Cricketers pub, turn left to Sunninghill, past the Berestead Hotel, left into Armitage Court to be greeted by Tody, the guard cat. He's awake now, it seems. Yes, some of the time. Likes to relax. No point in exerting oneself. I pointed out the spot tracker. That was probably because I'm going to... That's the dead spot tracker in the bits of the old robot boat that has to be repaired. So looking at where we went, yeah, that showed up on the spot Satcom's tracker. That was our route. That was the route nearer the place where we parked the car in the field, and probably the route back home. That was working okay. Now how about the other tracker? That's the one I wear around my neck, and anybody can check it on the contact page just by tapping or clicking on that. And that shows the position okay, and that shows the route, including nearer the place and walking into the garden. That seemed to be working okay. So, oh, that's the other tracker, and that seemed to work okay as well. That was in June's handbag. Yes, nice slogan that. So what we got next? Oh, Bentley's come over to eat. Hello Bentley. That's the cat from opposite. He's the senior guard cat. Has been training Tody for some time. On into my routine and looking at the closed circuit TV, and foxes, 3 foxes. How about that? 3 foxes, young foxes, lady relaxing, and yeah, and they appeared in the back garden as well, on the rear bridge. Lady sometimes takes an interest in the closed circuit TV as well. Gives a warning of things happening. June watching tennis just for a change. Is the hedgehog arriving? So that's the closed circuit. Oh, that was, I think that glimpse was of Lady on the closed circuit TV, one of the cameras, prowling around the garden. Looks like I'm off, probably down past the robot boat that needs work on it, and yeah, the cat fort Yes, the light says that Tody's in there. Here, there he is, on duty. And walk down to the village, to the Comrades Club, for a glass of wine. Force myself occasionally. Sometimes it's just a Pepsi Cola. And then walking back home. June watching tennis, I expect. I do a few other checks. Yes, check that the tracker worked, including my stay at the Comrades Club. That's the end of that. Tuesday the 8th of August 2023. Just 3 minutes of photos, including the air trip to the pub for lunch and things seen on the closed circuit TV. My trip down to the Comrades Club at the back end of the day and watching the wildlife on the closed circuit TV and checking trackers, of course. So that looks as though I'm checking the spot tracker, which is in June's car at the moment. Shows a trip to the supermarket, then a trip to the pub. At least that was what was planned. Interrupted by Lady. And what am I looking at now? Yeah, checking the closed circuit D. Oh yeah, there's Stuart has arrived, providing the transport to the pub. And Richard, I think, possibly. There's the pub. There's some of the food. There's grumpy old men enjoying their food and the conversation. And then leave, rain shower. Tody guarding the premises. And come back for a coffee and a chat. And the guys are off. The women doing their thing. Tody guarding the premises. Oh yes, the ladies playing social tennis. And yes, the tracker that anybody can look at, it hasn't got all the information from Google at the moment, so that's changed. I'm sure Alan will sort it. And yeah, women back from tennis by the look of it. Looks like Robin's going for a walk down to the village, to the Comrades Club. Glass of wine, conversation, and then back home to relax and watch on closed circuit TV with the Pussycats what's been going on. Oh yes, my walk, that seemed to come out okay, including the stay at the Comrades Club. And there's the fox watched by Tody the pussycat. He wasn't too sure, but he still had a few peanuts. And then the hedgehog came as well. And sometimes you get, yes, there's Lady Michelle's pussycat, and sometimes you get the fox and the hedgehog at the same time. The 9th of August 2023, which is mostly a photo trail of a visit to a garden open for the National Garden Scheme charity, where we got to meet some interesting guys. And there's the walk around the garden, there's Lady, and ended the day with a trip to the Comrades Club and a glass of wine. And of course June watching tennis when I got back. So here's the start of the photo trail. June checking the route, and it's more than one Farnborough, not our local Farnborough. And even on Street View it showed the last time they were open. So we're just setting off now. Yeah, apparently Farnborough means hill with ferns or something similar. And yeah, so that's their trip along the motorway. Most of the trip was along the M4 into the village or hamlet or whatever it is of Farnborough. Village, I suppose, because it has a church. Park in the field opposite. There's the lovely old house with lots of doves, and then a lovely long walk through the garden, looking lots and lots of things to see. Not least the vegetable patch, with an interesting character there. I'm not quite sure whether he was crucified, which seems a bit unfriendly. And yes, whatever they are, toadstools or mushrooms, possibly toadstools, I think. Yeah, edge of the garden had a large pond stroke reservoir. Lots of walks, lots of flowers. That was presented to them, I think. Possible place to live. Lovely sculptures everywhere. And lots of flowers. Of course, I don't recognise most of them. Swimming pool. We weren't allowed to go in the swimming pool. I think they were worried that Robin's dirty clothes would have got it dirty. Ah yes, time to stop for coffee and cake and admire the old buildings. But we still hadn't done all of it. So there the bumblebees love the flowers. So we're still doing a patch of the garden that we hadn't done. Not quite sure what that was. I love that bit of sculpture. I suspect it's fairly recent. Very well done. Back to the car, and we decided to take the scenic route back, roughly through Henley, but going due east, cross country, past some interesting pubs. I think we might have visited those before. Checking where we are on the paper map. So I think we were heading to Goring to go across the Thames there. Oh, that's Henley. Yeah. So we... And... yeah, I'm coming into Sunninghill now. Through the town, or the village. And we're home. Listen to the Radio 4 news. Check where anybody could have seen we went, which is the Snoopy page and the tracker showing the spot route we took and parked. And then I checked the personal tracker that I wear as a pendant, and it shows the walk around the garden. And then back home with Tody the pussycat. Oh, looking at the closed circuit TV, did that check, and there's both the fox and the hedgehog sharing the peanuts. There's Lady, Michelle's pussycat, relaxing. Looks like I'm on my way to the village, down to the Comrades Club, have a glass of wine. And my French was never good, but I think I recognise what that word means, but better not shout it out. So back home now. There's the hedgehog already feeding. Robot boat may get some work done on it sometime. Lady relaxing. And that's where I'd gone, down to the Comrades Club. And that's the end of that photo trail. I did warn you that they would be long photo trails. However, the whole video is going to be quite long, as it turns out. But what I will say is I'm going to end this with some video clips that were made earlier in the year. about the prophetic words of James Lovelock about global warming. Put simply, it's going to happen, and you haven't seen anything yet. The other topic is my experience with the DVLA, the Driver Vehicle Licensing Agency, and we'll see what happens about that. So before I run into those clips, here is Tody prowling the garden. So let's go into those. Now, what I put on the screen, because global warming is rearing itself, it's something that's been on my grumpy page for years. The remarkable James Lovelock, who passed away on the 26th of July, his 103rd birthday. I'll read out what this says here. This has been on the grumpy page for years, not long after the publication of his book, Revenge of Gaia. We can't stop global warming, but we may delay it by a few decades to give us time to prepare for its effects. Vast areas of the world, including as close as continental Europe, becoming arid desert, shrinking of habitable areas of the planet to much smaller parts of the planet, closer to the poles. The Earth will then only be able to support a small fraction of its present population, and there will be a need for massive migration. Places like the UK will remain temperate a little longer, so be an attractive destination. We need all world governments to cooperate to prepare for this inevitability. Also to agree things like reduce use of fossil fuels to give us a few more decades to prepare. And then it goes on. The above is not a quote, but how I remember what James Lovelock said in his book, The Revenge of Gaia, etc. That's been unchanged on my site for years. And right, well, the other thing I should mention, yes, retired happy and spending that kid's inheritance, is for some time now I've not been able to drive due to, well, several mistakes at the DVLA. And what I will say is that I have new evidence of what happened inside the DVLA, which I won't publish yet, because I'm still waiting for the reply to the letter which was delivered by recorded delivery to the head of the DVLA and also other people. So I'll put in at the end of this long video the video that's gone up, me talking about the DVLA, and basically in summary it says I don't want anybody to get into trouble, and that is definitely the case, and resigning is too easy. Problems need to be fixed. But quite honestly, that is a minor thing compared with all the other things that are going on in the world, not least wars, and of course what's in the background and very important is global warming. So let's run into that. Back in 2012.
Seen the launch of a transatlantic sailing attempt this morning in a model boat. Retired NATO scientist Robin Lovelock launched his Snoop loop from Barton-on-Sea towards the Bahamas. It's already been tested over 5,000 miles on a lake in Berkshire. The model will be steered and tracked through a satellite system and by Snoopy, of course, and it should make the crossing in 6 months, if it survives, that is.
The most important thing of the lot, of course, is Snoopy the Viking, the skipper. I don't think he'd make it otherwise. We've also got another bit and piece here. This is a GPS logger that logs the position every 15 minutes. That was back in 2012. The guy that put this material together, including live broadcast and what went up on the BBC website, is Ben Moore.
I just worry for Snoopy. Sport now and Hampshire.
Right, on to the next topic. Right. Now, I'm going to do this all in one take. All unrehearsed and unscripted, so sorry about that. What I'd like to happen, if anybody picks up on the DVLA story, is, as I say, nobody getting into trouble, and that's a genuine request. But when they find flaws in procedures where they don't cover certain things, be good if those are fixed. What I think would be useful for anybody looking at the DVLA and perhaps helping them is, first of all, their organisation chart showing the structure. Yes, it's well known who the head of the DVLA, remarkable woman, looking at her CV, and relevant to this story is the head of the health part. But it would be very useful to see, even if names aren't attached, obviously the names can be attached where they're public already, is how many people in each branch, how many people are reporting to how many. So a simple tree would help. I suggest that first of all. Then, perhaps even more important, is how many people working for the DVLA, even if you don't identify the individuals, are salaried by the DVLA excuse me, directly, as opposed to contracted through an agency or a business. That is very important, and we've seen what's been happening in places like the NHS for years. So that comes into the equation in terms of whether money is well spent, and of course the DVLA collects a lot of money, and there are probably other things as well, but as a starting point, I'd hope anybody that responds to this, I can't afford to get overloaded, we've got other things to do, many other things to do, and we'll be taking a holiday. That'll be public, yes. I'm tracked everywhere by different things, and in fact, if anybody's paranoid about it, anybody who's tracking somebody or looking at somebody's probably seen already. But at the end of the day, there's me wittering on, which is one of my main weaknesses since I was a little child. That's why if you put things up, clearly be careful what you put up, and often it can do some good. I'm now in the kitchen, and June's rustling up some food in the microwave for Samantha. The microwave was invented by James Lovelock, if you didn't know. And here's Samantha, and of course there's tennis on the television, just for a change. So, oh yes, point out, holidays in we're going off to Sicily again soon, and into the hall. Yes, nice expensive paintings here. Yep, expensive little pocket camera, not expensive. And through into the lounge and out to wrap up this video by saying, look after yourselves, stay safe, and enjoy what days we have.